Great. Well, thank you. I want to start off by saying good morning to everybody and welcome to the 72nd AFC Annual Conference. Student Development Commission presenting the addressing student mental health and wellness needs with Pirates Care from your team at Pensacola State College. My name is Mark Hoyt. I am with Timely MD. And before we jump in here, I'm just going to say a couple words about our offering and how we serve the higher education community. So Timely MD was founded in 2017 and has become the leader in telehealth at the intersection of healthcare, higher ed, and technology. We exclusively serve the higher education community and schools all across the United States, all different types, community colleges, public and private institutions as well. Our telehealth offering provides a student-centered care that provides a more holistic approach that treats the student as a whole. And we have different facets to this offering, including medical care, which is 24/7 on-demand care, where students can alleviate the need to go to urgent care or emergency room. Especially these days, where those visits can cost upwards of $100 and $150. That can be the difference of many community colleges, students attending class and being able to stay in that semester. So these are no-cost visits that the students have access to. They can schedule in advance or attend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. On the behavioral health side as well, we have several offerings. We do have an on-demand service that's called Talk Now. That is our, again, zero cost emotional support and critical care management that can take care of crisis in the moment. We've also got scheduled counseling, which is therapeutic sessions with licensed counselors in which the student lives, and also psychiatric visits as well. And for our community college students, we have basic needs packages that help students fill so many needs that they have in terms of food insecurity, housing insecurity, childcare, tuition management, a number of different services that, again, are helping make the difference between a student staying in class that semester or not, really understanding the needs of the students. And our offering becomes a partnership with the schools that we work with, and constantly utilizing feedback and data from these visits to help optimize the experience for the student and for the school as well. So I want to thank you for that time. And at this moment, we will go ahead and I'll stop sharing and we'll introduce our team. So today, speaking, we're going to have the Pirates Care team from Pensacola State College. The Pirates Care initiative is focused on creating a culture of care among the Pensacola State College community. Pirates Care provides support and resources to students outside the classroom to help aid in their retention at the college and also the successful completion of courses and degree programs. Specifically, their program offers services such as direct counseling, case management, access to campus food pantries, relationship violence prevention, and general outreach and advocacy as well. In addition, their program team members help conduct training for faculty and staff members, as well as students on topics such as suicide prevention, bystander intervention, and community resources as well. And at this time, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our speakers that will be helping host the presentation today. First, we're going to have Dr. Lindsay Listow, who is the Executive Director of Institutional Equity and Student Conduct at Pensacola State College. Dr. Listow brings over 10 years of full-time higher education experience as a collaborative leader focused on developing her staff and teams. She is committed to creating strong relationships with internal and external community partners to advance the mission of the organization, and really is known for empowering her staff, offering creative solutions to problems, and enhancing wellness service for students and employees, all while helping manage critical projects. Also on the panel, we're going to have Jessica Johnson, who is the Wellness Care Manager at Pensacola State College, and Brittany Clark, who is the Coordinator of Mental Health Services at Pensacola State College as well. And with that, I will let the team take it away. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that introduction. We are so excited to be with you all this morning. Can you all see my screen now, the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. You would think by now that we would all be like technologically savvy, but I still manage to mess up Zoom all the time. So I'm glad that it is there. Unfortunately, Brittany is not going to be with us this morning. We are down to one counselor on campus right now. And as you all can imagine, with us coming up to the holidays and finals and end of semester, we are just a little bit busy with counseling. So you just get Jessica and I today, but you'll see, I think, a picture of Brittany at some point during the presentation. But we are very excited to be here and to talk with you all about our initiatives. I've been at Pensacola State for almost 7 years now, and so I'm excited to talk to you about kind of the evolution of this program. And then Jessica, do you want to briefly introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Jessica. I've been at PSC about 6 years now. I started off actually as an AmeriCorps member. So my journey here started off with volunteer management. I also did financial literacy through our Money Matters program, which has evolved into something bigger than what we imagined. So I'm excited to be here today with you all and talk with you about what we've done and what we're continuing to do, and then have some conversation with you all going forward about what's happening on your campuses and how we can maybe work collaboratively to increase the capacity for care for our students.
So to get started, we just kind of want to give you an overview of our of what we do with Pirates Care. So this is a multidisciplinary team that meets typically on a weekly basis to talk about things that we're seeing, students that we're concerned about, but just bringing a lot of different resources and people to the table to make sure that we're providing that holistic support for them. And so we're really focused on creating the culture of care, not only amongst the team that we have, but our entire institution community. And we'll talk about that, why that is in a little bit later, but it's really to, at first we work to kind of change the culture, and now it's helping people realize how can you individually, as a staff member, as an advisor, as an admin assistant, as a faculty member, help us really make students feel as though this is a community that cares about them, not just as students who are in seats, who are paying for tuition, but as individuals who are on their path of growth and development. So we do provide support and resource to students outside of the classroom. We also help inside the classroom too, because we are aware, for example, if a student is hungry in class and they're taking a test, they're probably not going to do as well on that test, right, if they don't have food. So while a lot of our support is outside the classroom, it also impacts what happens inside the classroom as well. We do offer those direct student services as well as training, and then we do individual assessments with students. What we have learned, and I think what all of us would agree on, is that no student is alike. They all have different lived experiences, they all have different needs, they are all heading towards different goals. And so it is not just a one-size-fits-all model. We really take the time to get to know our students individually and do need assessments with them that make sense for where they are at and for what they need. And then of course, we also do kind of general outreach and advocacy for our students. So in terms of the history of the program, just so you kind of know where we've come from, the Pirates Care team was established in 2017, during the 2017-2018 academic year. Prior to this, we had some more informal kind of student crisis referral groups and work, but really the establishment of the team as it is today happened about 4 or 5 years ago. And so what you're seeing on the screen is we have a logo, the Pirates Care logo, and then we brand it for all the different things that come out of that group. So our food pantry, our suicide prevention, mental health awareness, our relationship violence prevention, so that when students see this logo, or when faculty and staff see it, they know what it is. They know what it means. So we did a really big kind of branding campaign to help our culture of care really come into existence. So we have served over 1,000 students since the team was established. That number is probably a lot higher if we add this semester. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but I don't know what you all are seeing at your institutions, but we are seeing the most, our referrals are up 76% from this time last year, and they are a lot more complex situations. And, you know, you might say, well, we've had this pandemic, right, for almost 2 years, and it was really bad at the beginning, and we agree with that. But now we're at a point where there is not as much assistance anymore for our students in terms of financial assistance, whether it's coming from federal, state, local governments. While there are lots of jobs available, some of our students may not have the skill sets for the jobs that are available. And then we're seeing in our area at least, and I'm sure this is the same with you all, a huge housing crisis. So the housing market has exploded, So a lot of houses that maybe were available for rent previously are now being sold because of how much money landlords can make off of those houses. Because of people not paying rent for so long, we are seeing in our area that rent is increasing astronomically across the board, and that properties are now asking for you to prove that you make at least 4 to 5 times the rent in order to even sign a lease with them. So we are having major housing crisis here in Pensacola. So we actually feel like this semester has been our most taxing out of all of the semesters in the pandemic. So we'll be interested later to hear if anybody else is seeing that too. Like I said, we do have the multidisciplinary team that meets. So we've got members from conduct, Jessica's case management, our mental health providers, our campus safety, ADA office, advising office. All of our satellite campuses have representatives. Our veterans office, TRIO Student Support Services. So we've got a lot of different people, faculty, that kind of come to that table to talk about what's going on. And then we have a referral system that we'll explain to you all a little bit later, that is how we get students referred to our team so that we can help them. And then in this past year, we've actually created what we are now calling the Wellness Services team. So that team includes Jessica as our case manager, our mental health counselors. Currently, like I said, we only have one, but we have a second one starting in December. So we will have 2 counselors for our entire campus population. We are, fingers crossed, getting another grant next spring that will add another one. But right now we have 2. And then we also have our project coordinator for relationship violence prevention. So that's kind of our core staff members that are able to provide wellness services to our students. One of the things that I like to share whenever we're talking about our team is kind of this picture. So you all have hopefully seen an iceberg before. And if you think about an iceberg, all you really see is the small portion at the top. So kind of the tip of the iceberg. But we know in reality that icebergs are a lot bigger than what we see on the surface. And this is how we describe our students when we're doing trainings, especially when we're talking to faculty, about they might only see what's on top of the surface. And that could be positive things, like a student who appears as though they are doing really well, they're happy, they're engaged. Or it could be that the faculty member is seeing a student who is disruptive in class, and that's all they see. They don't know why. They don't know what's below the surface. And so we like to remind folks that while we might only interact with the tip of the iceberg, there is so much more underneath that our students are dealing with. And so these are just some examples of what might be below the surface for our students and why we need to be able to create this community of care for them. So it could be that you've got a student that's also a parent, that's working multiple jobs, that is dealing with that food insecurity, that is unemployed. Transportation issues, they're having mental health issues, they are dealing with grief and loss. I think we've seen that a lot over the last 2 years. Or it could be that you have a student who's a survivor of relationship violence. And so we understand that our students, when they come to our campuses, they are students, but they bring with them a suitcase of lived experiences that are going to impact their success while they're on our campus. And so I think it's important that we remember that in every interaction that we have with a student. You see that meme picture, whatever, it's like, you never know that the person that you're interacting with is just hanging on by a thread, right? You might not know how bad their day is, and so treat people with kindness. And so that's kind of this same philosophy, is understand that there is more that's going on with our students, and they may not be willing to share with us what's going on, but just kind of being aware of that, I think, is really important as we work with our students. So for us, why is this program vital, and why would something like this be vital on your campuses? Well, certainly I think we all know that our students are dealing with a lot, that school for a lot of them is not their only priority, is not the only thing they're responsible for. And so we were really lucky that in fall 2020, we were able to engage with the Healthy Mind Study. This is a national survey that is done at colleges and universities across the United States. There is a cost to it. We are engaged as a JED campus right now. JED is a national mental health organization. And so as part of being a JED campus, we were included in this study, but there is, just disclaimer, there's a cost to doing this. But again, since it's a national survey, we were able to compare ourselves with schools across the country, able to get more resources, more feedback. But we found some really interesting things in our results from our students. And we only had about a 7% response rate, but that is typical for our students. So any kind of survey we're sending out to them, we're only seeing like a 5 to 7% response rate. So it's not a whole lot of our students, but again, in line with what we see. One of the things that really, I think, stood out to me was this first one. There was a question about how has your academic performance been impacted by emotional or mental difficulties? And over 80% of the respondents indicated that it had been impacted. And for some students, it was maybe just a couple days had been impacted. For other students, it was 10 or more days in the semester had been impacted. And so this is when we talk to our academic colleagues and we share with them why this matters. I'm going to turn over to Jessica for just a minute.
Yeah, so for the next part, the 85% of respondents that indicated that their financial situation was stressful, that's a huge amount, and it shouldn't be surprising. I mean, last year during the pandemic, we saw individuals who we were all kind of on the same level playing field as far as needing assistance, needing support. And so we had in our area a lot of students who were not familiar with or had not navigated through the social services such as assistance for housing, financial assistance, those sorts of things. And so, and a lot of individuals were losing jobs and being laid off, and there are so many things going on. And so this number is significantly high, and it's also probably something that we're also seeing a lot today as well. So additionally, with the 50% of respondents that were concerned about food running out before they had money to buy more, we definitely can attest to that. And we'll talk more about our food pantry program the next couple of slides over, but our food pantry program was significantly expanded within a year's time with the help of our campus community and just our general community at large. We've been able to provide food for our students as well as their families as well, which is really unheard of, because a lot of times when you have social services that provide food, it's only a certain amount and the frequency is very limited. But we allow our students to come in at least twice a month to get food for themselves and their families. And we've doubled numbers in just this semester compared to last year this time. So the need is still very much high. A couple of the stats going down as far as mental health go, the numbers related to attempted suicide, diagnosed depression, anxiety, and just isolation. We're definitely seeing that in our mental health services component of the wellness team. The referrals have been significantly higher. The needs have been significantly deeper for our students. And so what we saw here was a significant need of needing to do training with our faculty and staff on how to see and recognize distress in our students, and then also how to refer them to the appropriate individuals on campus and in the community should they see something happening. We've also are planning to do some group therapy training as well with our students, and which I think is going to be a really good resource for them. Also, we're looking to do some partnering with Project Connect. If you've not heard of it, it's a wonderful program that basically creates affinity groups for students related to all sorts of different things. So we may have a group for parents, we may have a group for non-traditional students, we may have a group for students who are in certain majors, those sorts of things. And so it kind of builds that community piece again, because what we found, and I think all of us can attest to the importance of what community and relationship does, especially considering that we spent 2020 so isolated and struggling just ourselves with trying to build that connection as well. And then also here, you'll see down at the bottom related to binge drinking and engaging in drug usage. That also, those numbers are pretty significant and astounding. But we also see that this is very similar to what has been probably reported on the national level as well. You know, as individuals are at home, and just kind of struggling. Also, there's, you know, individuals or students who maybe have been in, they're at home with their attacker or their unsafe situation. So everyone's at home, sheltered in place. So those numbers were pretty significantly high for that as well. And in that, you know, we've done programming with our private care team related to having some national speakers come in to talk about the effects of binge drinking and drug usage and different things to look out for and different resources as well. So, and our referrals to outside sources has increased as well, just as getting students connected to resources and getting them support, whether it be with outpatient facilities or some inpatient support as well. And so here is where we get into kind of the meat of how we do what we do, our approach. So we utilize the 8 dimensions of wellness, and this allows us to look at our students from a more holistic view and to see what their needs are, but really also to see what their strengths are. So we look at emotional wellness, financial, social wellness, spiritual wellness. You know, what are you connected to? What grounds you? What are your values and your beliefs? Your occupational wellness. A lot of our students are transitioning from the 2-year or certificate program out into the world, out into the workforce. So we want to prepare them for that as well. Their physical wellness, and then intellectual and environmental. So environmental meaning, what is your home life like? Are you safe? Do you have adequate means? And can you feel healthy at home? And so what we do with this approach is we allow our students to kind of, well, when I do intake with students, I'll ask them, you know, to rate how they feel about all of these dimensions, how comfortable they are with them, and what they need in each of them. For some students, they may have a really high emotional support system, but they have really low support and financial, or a lot of them are coming in disconnected socially, but they have some sort of awareness to the spiritual component. So we'll talk a little bit about what that'll look like. And so when they present to me specifically as kind of an initial intake, they do come with that initial crisis or that issue for them, but in the intake, it allows me to see a holistic view of what they need and what they have, so that it kind of continues to help us progress and develop them going forward, because we do want to address that critical crisis need, but also have them hopefully walk away with some tools and resources to help them holistically. And so here, you know, this is just something that we wanted to put as a reminder that caring about our students is a responsibility of every employee on campus. And all of us really do make a difference, whether you're at the very top of the administration or you're doing maintenance. You know, you have an impact on your students' interactions and how they feel a connection to the institution. And really, you know, we have these care teams and we have these different resources and workshops and things like that. But really, you know, individually, it's up to us to kind of build a support system and a safe space for our students. And so here we've got a few of our services and what they look like to some of the different areas that we've got. For mental health, we have on-campus counseling. We do that group therapy that I mentioned earlier. We also have a facilities dog, which you see here. His name is Dr. Rudy. And we joked yesterday as some of our AFC members were meeting in the general session, we talked about how the students just want to see Brittany and the dog. And so it's very true. Rudy is very, very popular. A lot of times the students just want to see him and then they'll get to us later. So we love that we have that available for them. Also, we've utilized Together All Peer Support before. It's just an online database where all of our faculty, students, and staff can connect together anonymously, so you don't know who's who or what's going on, but it allows you to have a support system, so where if you are struggling with something or you need some general support, you have someone who can anonymously respond to you, or you can post anonymously as well. And then there are what they call wall guides who look at certain trigger words. So maybe a post mentions something about suicide ideation, or having a tough time and needing support, where that wall guide can look and respond immediately to say, here's some resources in your area that would be beneficial to you. And it's not anyone from the institution, but it's the Together All support staff that they have. Also, we utilize the Pen Pal program, which is a really, really big hit, especially in 2020 when we were all isolated. This was an opportunity for students to get an actual letter in the mail from someone and kind of write back and forth, just to kind of put that personal touch, because you all know what it feels like to receive a card in the mail or a handwritten note of some sort. It makes you feel good and connected, and so we wanted to provide that for our students as well. And then also under mental health, we utilize our suicide prevention and substance abuse training significantly. Again, equipping the community, our college community, with ways to identify students in distress, to talk and have conversations around safe suicide prevention discussions, and then what it looks like for substance abuse resources in the community and how to help our students and support them that way. Also with case management, again, talked about that Project Connect small groups we're looking to kick off here in the spring semester. That's another opportunity for us to build connection. Anyone who's ever done Project Connect will tell you how vital it is to the general wellness and support of the students, or really just anyone who facilitates as well. It really does build community, and that's what we're trying to do and everything that we're doing here. Also, with the food pantry program, we have food pantries on every PSC location now. So we have three campuses and 2 centers that range from the very top of the Escambia County all the way to South Santa Rosa County. And this allows our students to have access to food, and their families have access to food with little to no barrier. We've tried to cut significantly down on the amount of barriers it takes, because we all know if any of us have either experienced out for ourselves or through someone else, the actual process of getting access into community resources, it is very difficult and can be very challenging. So we wanted our students to come in. Of course, we want that demographic information, but really we want to see, what needs they have outside of the food and connect them in that way as well. And like I said, we've doubled our numbers of usage in our pantry from this semester in comparison to last fall. And we are on track to probably double or maybe even triple our entire academic year's worth of usage for the pantry. With that, we've also started a market day that's in partnership with the food pantry that allows us to use resources to provide fresh farm produce to our students. Also to bring vendors and resources on campus for our students, so that the community partners can come on campus and the students can utilize them in a one-stop all kind of model. So our first food pantry market day is actually hosted tomorrow. So we're excited about that, and also very nervous because it's our first one, but I think it'll be great. And it's another opportunity for us to do something big and something different for our students. We also talk again with that liaison between the college and community resources, again, bringing the resources to the students on campus for us has been really helpful, and we want to continue to expand that because we know that building those relationships with our students and the partner allows them to have that go-to person they can go to at that community resource. It allows them to have someone that they're meeting with and can go to on a one-on-one type referral basis, as opposed to calling the general number, getting caught in their call log and then their black hole of emails. And so one of the things that I brought into this position from my experience with AmeriCorps was those community resources and those relationships with our nonprofit entities. And that allowed us to kind of have people at the table and our students to see that we have relationships and that we can actually work with them as they work with the community partners as well. Additionally, in case management, we talk a lot about financial literacy, and we have a partnership with our Title III department, grant department, where we have someone actually in our office that can work on our workshops through financial wellness. They can point students in directions of financial resources in the community and just kind of provide any ongoing support as needed, because we do know that we can talk about financial literacy and the importance of saving and budgeting and all of that, but we can't do that until we kind of address some of those crisis needs initially. And then we do also talk about occupational wellness and career assessments, because that is also something that kind of builds up their toolbox for them, for our students, so that when they leave here at PSC, they have something with a goal and some type of foundation to do well and be well in the workforce. And then in our relationship violence prevention part of the team, we have a coordinated community response team, again, stressing that collaborative community effort of teamwork and communication. That team is pretty diverse. We have 3 outside community services or agencies that work within the team. And then we also have, kind of similar to our Pirates Care team, we have a multi-diverse team where we've got representation from athletics, student activities, our wellness department, some faculty and staff there as well. And it just allows us to work together as a team to address the crimes of sexual assault, relationship violence prevention, domestic violence, and anything in between, and stalking as well. And then under victim services, legal services, and our domestic violence shelter, those are our 3 community partners that we have direct contact with and resources for. These are also free resources for our students, so they don't have to worry about the burden of having to afford legal representation for a crime that's been done to them. And also they have shelter, and then just the ongoing support of victim services should they need it. And then we continue to have ongoing programming and training in the form of bystander intervention, domestic violence awareness month, sexual assault awareness month. We have other things coming up too. It's just so much. And, back to Lindsay's point of, seeing where we were 6 or 7 years ago to where we are today, it is truly a blessing to see where we've come from, and then also know that we've got even farther to go.
Absolutely. Just a couple of things on our services in case you're curious. So for our suicide prevention training, we are using the Gatekeeper training that is out of Syracuse University. We also have just gotten a couple of staff members, including Jessica, trained as facilitators for mental health first aid. So that is I think 6 or 8 hour program that results in a certification for employees who go through it and students who go through it. So we're going to be rolling that out in the spring as well as another option. And then we also we're just getting ready to launch Cognito, their at-risk platform, which is I refer to it as like a choose your own adventure platform. If you ever read those books, if I'm not aging myself from back in the day, but basically there's different mental health scenarios, and it's a virtual kind of simulation where you go through and you select what would you say to the student who has just informed you that they are maybe having suicidal ideation. So that's something we're actually getting ready to roll out just to our faculty and staff as well. And then with the relationship violence prevention, we just had Domestic Violence Awareness Month in October. And we had already kind of seen a rise in our cases with domestic violence, but following the different kind of outreach and education activities we did, we had about 12 reports of domestic violence within a 8-day period. Right at the end of October, beginning of November. So we are seeing kind of a huge increase we knew it was a problem for our students and in our community, but now we're having students who are kind of coming out to say, hey, I am dealing with this, and I know the college has resources. So that's kind of been another area that we've really increased on. So just a couple of things that we did, and who would have thought that almost 2 years later we're still talking about COVID, but some COVID-19 response things that we did, some things that we have kept that we wanted to share, because this may be things that you may want to think about doing. We started the pandemic by doing a needs survey to kind of finding out what students needed immediately. What were their technology needs? Had students lost jobs right away? Did they have food needs? And then after we did the survey, we actually did individual phone calls to over 2,500 students in a 2-day period with about 90 volunteers to just check in with students. And so the amazing thing was, and I think this is how our team always operates, is we don't call to check to see, are you staying in classes? Are you registered for next semester? We might ask you those questions eventually, but the first thing we're always going to ask when we do outreach is, how are you? How are you and how are you doing? And just the overwhelming response that we get from students when we ask those simple questions, it's amazing. Because again, it shows kind of that culture of care of, yeah, you're our student. Yes, we want you to stay enrolled in classes, but just how are you? How are you doing? What's going on? How can we help you? And sometimes we might not be able to help, but for our students, just having someone who's checking, someone who's willing to listen to what they're going through makes such a world of a difference. Mm-hmm. We also have we started off utilizing Google Voice. So we set up kind of on our own individual cell phones, Google Voice account so that we could communicate with students. We now are using Mongoose for texting. So we as a Pirates Care team have a Mongoose account through our institution, and we can send text messages to students all day long if we wanted to, but just a way to stay connected and actually, again, meet students where they are. We did drive-through food pantry distributions. Now students can actually come to campus and pick up food, but we did do the drive-through. We also delivered to a few students who didn't have transportation. We also kind of manage our technology referrals. So we have an IT team who actually does all the computer stuff with the laptops and gets them all ready for students. But in order to request either a loaner laptop or a loaner hotspot, it comes through our team, because we have realized two things. One, it just kind of helps the process go a lot easier, and IT doesn't have to worry about chasing students down or making sure they're registered. But students who need technology likely have other needs as well. Mm-hmm. And so while we're talking to them about their technology need and getting them a laptop, getting them a hotspot, we can also check in on, hey, do you have food for this week? Hey, are you employed? Are you looking for work? And so that's kind of the nice thing, is we can provide that, again, holistic approach to solving problems. And then we we worked with our foundation at first before we got CARES Act money to raise funds, emergency funds for our students, and we distributed those. And then we have also been tasked with, we received $18 million in student emergency aid. I know some of you all received a whole lot more than that. But our team has really managed that distribution and application process as well to get through that aid. We have about $4 million left. And I will not lie to you all when I say when the last penny is gone, I'm going to have a massive celebration, because that has just been such an experience, kind of having to go through all of that. So those were just some of the things that kind of came as the COVID-19 response, but we are looking at doing a needs survey on a regular basis just to have a better understanding of what our students need. And then, like I said, we were able to get access to a texting account for our team so that we can now talk to students regularly. And then we are continuing the loaner technology program, so we'll continue to do that as well. Mm-hmm. So then in terms of our student impact, on the right-hand side, we send a survey to our students who we serve every semester just to get some feedback on their experience with our services, but then also ask them things like, what do we not offer that you need? Because we want to make sure we're always assessing what we're doing. And so this is just kind of some of the feedback we got from students who either worked with our mental health counselor, worked with our team as a whole, or utilized the food pantry. And so we just wanted to share some of those. These numbers have not been updated, so it's just showing you fall and spring from last year. It's not including summer for the whole academic year. But we had 357 students that during fall and spring were connected to our care team. For this fall already, I think we're at like 180. So we're, like I said, it's a 76% increase this fall. For fall and spring, there were close to 400 bags of food distributed. I think, Jessica, by the end of the year, it was almost 500. Does that sound about right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so a lot of bags of food. And like Jessica said, we are really proud of the fact that we provide for the student and their family. So most college food pantries will only provide food for the student, but we specifically ask how many people live with you, and then we're able to provide for their whole household. We offered almost 400 counseling sessions to students in the fall and the spring. And during that time, we had one counselor. So this is one counselor doing 400 counseling sessions. And then some of the things we're really proud of, when we looked at our retention numbers from fall to spring last year, and we'll look at them again fall to spring this year, but 70% of the students who referred to the care team were retained fall to spring. And then for those students who received those direct counseling services, 84% of them were retained. So we know that this is making an impact. When we also looked at kind of the 5-year trend with the students that had been referred to us, we increased retention by 25% over that 5 years for the students that were referred to us. So again, we know that we're making a difference and making an impact as well. And then kind of buy-in and program costs. So those of you who know me, I'm a pretty transparent person. So I am always willing to talk to people about the money that we spend, because it's one thing to talk about the great things we're doing, but as you all can imagine, there's a cost to all of the great things that we're doing as well. We have been very fortunate that we have been able to receive several grants that have funded things for us. We have an amazing grants department here at PSC. We are constantly looking for grants. So one of the big ones we've gotten was, the first one is the Garrett Lee Smith Campus Suicide Prevention Grant. We had this grant maybe 7 or 8 years ago the first time, and that's kind of what got us kind of going and moving in this direction. But we got it a second time. We're about to enter year 3. It's a 3-year grant. And this grant is what pays for one of our mental health counselors. So it pays their entire salary, benefits, all of that, which has been such a blessing. That's actually how we got our first full-time counselor on campus. It also helps provide the funding for suicide prevention training. It's what's paying for Cognito. It's able to send our staff to professional development conferences to get those best practices. So it's a fantastic grant. So I definitely recommend that one to you all to consider. Our relationship violence work, that is done through the Department of Justice Office on Violence Against Women Campus Grant. That is also a 3-year grant, $300,000 grant. And so that is paying for our relationship violence coordinator. And then it also provides essentially stipends to those community organizations that are doing the work with our students, which is really nice. And then again, money for training and different activities and outreach as well. We've also been lucky that we've asked for institutional money from CARES and the HERF funding. So we actually used some institutional funds to pay for the second counseling position that we have. That's what originally got that position. That position will actually be transferred to Title III, and Title III is going to pick that up for the last 3 years of their grant. And with that, we had to get new office furniture, so CARES Act paid for that. And then our group therapy that we were talking about, we actually had to create a space on campus for group therapy. And so we used some CARES Act funding to really make that a very inviting, welcoming, safe space, and got some really nice kind of comfortable furniture for students to use for that room. And then we talked about the Title III funding as well. So we are big fans of grants. Our market day, the fresh food that we're getting, that's actually through a local grant that we got with a local business. We got a $2,000 grant this year that we're going to be using to get the fresh food for those markets. In terms of institutional funding, Jessica's position, the wellness case manager, that is one that is funded institutionally, which is fantastic. We are hoping that our other positions, so especially our counseling positions, that those will become institutionally funded when the grants are over. But certainly there's no guarantee there. We use Maxient for our referral system. So Maxient is typically used for student conduct, but it has evolved over time. And so we actually use Maxient for student conduct, academic integrity, Pirates Care referrals for students of concerns. We use it for the food pantry. So our food pantry application is actually in Maxient. And then we use it for Title IX and then also for employee and student grievances too. So we use it for a whole lot of things, but that's essentially how our team finds out that there are students in need, is through what we call a Maxient referral. And then of course we get funds for printing so that we can do that. This is a poster that we've put up all over campus. It's a little bit outdated, but because we don't have daycare anymore. But this is certainly kind of something that we've done as well. And then to me, and I think Jessica, you would agree, the biggest thing that we have done over the course of the last 5 years is to find champions for the work that we do. And that is in our student population, but it's also in our faculty and staff. So we do as much as we can to tell the story of our work. And it's really funny because I have never been the type of person that will like stand on a table and brag about what you're doing or brag about your accomplishments. And this last year I said, forget it, I'm doing that. Like, we do good work and we have done some great things to help our students. And so we are going to tell everybody who will listen to us what we are doing and the impact it's had. And I think that has really helped, again, that culture at the institution where care is important to everyone. That's really what's getting that to build. And of course, when you have administrative support, that will help when you have to make funding requests or ask for new positions or ask for new services. And the big thing for us too is getting the message out. So it's easy to get messages out to our faculty and staff. We have to check our email every day, or most of us have to check our email every day. But students, they're not necessarily checking their email. And so we've had to be really creative about finding ways to connect with students. So whether it's text messaging or it's different social media platforms, not a lot of them are on Facebook anymore. So are we using, Dr. Rudy, if anybody's interested, has his own TikTok page. So if you'd like to follow our facility dog and see what he's doing with our students, he's on TikTok. So again, we're just trying to be creative on how do we get our message out. But certainly it's very important to make sure you have that buy-in as well.
And I also want to add just to that point, just quickly, one thing that we did starting this semester was we actually started traveling to our other campuses. So for those of you that have multiple campuses and you only have like maybe a central place where all your resources are, that made a lot of difference. I spend a lot of time now on our Warrenton campus, which is where our allied health programs are, our EMT, dental, hygiene, all of those programs, our health-related programs are. I spend a lot of time over there now because a lot of those students are in need. So if that's something that you've not thought about, I would encourage you to kind of think about what that looks like. I only go to our other campuses once a month, but I kind of move it around per week. So I'm spending 3 weeks on our other campuses, but I'm always based in our Pensacola location. So there's just something to think about as far as getting the message out.
Yeah, absolutely. I just saw a couple of things in the chat that it looks like some of you are getting Maxient. If you don't have Maxient, that to me is one of the best investments your institution can make. And so if you need to talk to me about how to get it, I will make it happen, because I came and we had nothing. We had literally file folders with notes on them. And that's how people were doing referrals and doing cases and all of that. So to me, it's the best, like $6,000 a year that we spend in our office. So if anybody wants to know more about that, we'd be happy to chat with you. So that's all the information we have for you today. We've got about 10 minutes and we would love to open it up to any questions that you all may have. The slide has our contact information as well in case you want to follow up afterwards. We know we just shared a lot of information, but certainly if you all have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat right now. Or if you want to unmute yourself, we'd be happy to answer anything as well. Looks like Roger, you've got a question?
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you for this comprehensive and very exciting presentation. You guys are doing amazing work in Florida's Panhandle. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And my question is, from a data perspective, how did you track all your outcomes? Because it looks like you guys were juggling so many different pieces. So how did you track everything in terms of the outcomes of the programs that you implemented? That's my question.
Yeah, that's a great question. So my staff laughed because I'm like the data nerd, and every semester I like lock myself in my office for a couple of days and probably do things the really hard way. Like there's probably a much easier way to do what I do. But essentially the great thing with Maxient is that it creates the cases with the students that we see for everything. So again, our food pantry, our conduct, academic integrity, and then our students of concern. So the ones that this Pirates Care team is working with. I will say this, our counselors, they get referrals in Maxient, but then they have a whole nother software system for their case notes because counseling has some HIPAA stuff and some other confidentiality things. But the great thing with Maxient is it allows you to run analytics. And so we actually, they have kind of preset analytics, and then you can custom build in all the fields that they have. So I will run a custom report every semester that gives me the list of all of our open cases, or not open cases, all of the cases we've had that semester. And you can do it for a whole year too. So you can select your date ranges. And then what I do is I, again, do it the hard way. I could send IR a list of the students that we worked with, and they can tell me whether they dropped out, but they are very busy. And so I just kind of like to take the day and I copy and paste and plink through our student record system to look at and see who graduated, who is enrolled for spring, and then who maybe withdrew. And so we kind of use that to then determine kind of what our numbers are and run the data numbers. So for me, it's just kind of using reports that we have access to, and then figuring out what it is we want to share. And then the surveys that we've done, luckily most of those have been done by kind of third parties. So then we haven't had to do any of the work with the data there. We get the data, and then we are able to go through it and present the information to our team. So that was probably more confusing and more information than you needed, but we're very lucky that the systems that we have are smart enough to run the data that we need to then determine what our numbers are.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions?
This is Steve from HCC. I just, one of the things that we struggle with is I work with workforce, and we have our own campus, similar to what Jessica was saying. We have our own. One of the challenges that we often find is we get forgotten in these processes. And so I'm just looking for suggestions. We make sure we're here. We wave our hand and go, don't forget us, and please engage us. And I'm just curious, was that intentional in your process from the beginning? Because I know obviously percentage-wise we're a nominal percentage when it comes to the overall 47,000 students that attend the HCC campuses, and we're only dealing with 200 to 250 on a daily basis. But our students have as many, if not more, issues than some of the traditional campus students. So I'm just wondering how you engage workforce, or if you have any recommendations on how we can really kind of note that issue and be like, come visit us with some of these really cool things that are happening too.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I am actually married to our department head for workforce education. So that kind of helps here because I already have that connection to workforce ed.
Lucky, yes.
But I will say this, I think we were intentional from the beginning of making sure that there were representatives from our other campuses as part of this care team. Now, most of us work on the Pensacola campus, and I would be lying if I told you that we spend equal amount of times on all of our campuses, because we don't. And that was something that, again, we continually assess what we're doing, and we realized over the last year, we have got to actually have a physical presence at those other campus locations. And so that's now why Jessica once a month is going out to the other campuses and spending a full day there so that students can actually meet with her there. Our counselors are on, well, when we have two, on a weekly basis, they are spending a day at each of our other campuses as well. So I do think that it was just intentionality on our end at the beginning, but then also the fact that we kind of do these assessments on an ongoing basis to see where are maybe our gaps. The other thing that we have done, because we've had a lot of students in need in workforce education, I absolutely agree with you. Your students have just as much need, if not more, than maybe students who are taking college credit classes. And so we've developed really strong relationships with the program coordinators in most of those programs. And so we are actually doing things like going to those classes at the beginning of the year to just spend 5 to 10 minutes in maybe their first, second, third class, just introducing ourselves and saying what it is that we do. And so that's something that if you have a team like us on your campus, maybe if they're not doing that proactively, maybe requesting that they come out and they do that. We also, at the beginning of every semester, go to the academic department meetings for every department, so including workforce ed. So they all have their kind of individual department meetings where they're going over things for the start of the semester, going over syllabus stuff. We again go to those meetings and spend 5 to 10 minutes with the faculty going over what we do and sharing our resources, because we know there are still people on our campus that don't know we exist, which just baffles my mind at this point, but it's the truth. And so we are trying to do as much as we can to get out there. So I think that, you know, if you are not seeing that proactively being done by whoever kind of oversees these services on your campus, then I would say just reach out to them and just ask them, hey, could you come meet with my students? Could you come meet with my staff? Because I think, unfortunately, we do sometimes forget satellite campuses, and sometimes it takes those individuals reminding us that they are there too, to get things to come out. But yeah, I just would agree with you.
To know that we're on the right track. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not going to say we're not alone by any chance. We're fortunate enough to have our own on-site person that has connections to those campus resources. It's just a challenge that we find. Obviously, it's a very Gen Z problem as well, though, is that the students don't like to go to places that they are not familiar with. You know, so when we say we can't help you with that issue here, you're going to have to go to the main campus, then they go, oh, well, never mind. You know, and we fortunately have been able to get a little bit of a, you know, like a small pantry. Because of my previous work with our pantry, I was like, we need a little pantry here because our students are in need. So we're lucky to have a small pantry. We're lucky to have a really good relationship with one of the main campuses that we're connected with. It's just that if we need counseling services, we have to send the student there versus them come here. A few things of that nature, you know, but I was just curious that, you know, I appreciate those suggestions. At least I know we're on the right track, and trying to get more attention on this.
I'll say this, you know, good things have come out of the pandemic. So we also offer virtual counseling sessions. So we've utilized Zoom. So, so that's, you know, that's an option. I think also with your point about students, you know, not wanting to go places they don't know people, that's been a great thing about our texting system, is that, you know, we have this phone number that can be given to students to text us. We haven't necessarily advertised it yet, but we do have that ability. And then a lot of our first interactions, we get the referral, is over a text message, and students are very comfortable getting to know you first on a text message. So there's, I think, some technology things that can be used to also kind of assist with that. So I think, yeah, absolutely. I think that Timely MD, I think Kelly is going to close out our session for today, but if you all have more questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to Jessica and I. We are happy to do that. And I think, I don't know if there's someone from AFC that can make Kelly a co-host, because I think she might need to share a screen. I don't have that ability.
That's okay, Dr. Listow. I can just speak. And at first, I want to thank you and Jessica for a wonderful presentation. Very insightful. And I love all the innovative things you're doing with Pirates Care and Dr. Rudy, and everything that you've been created on just going out and getting the best resources for your students. So on behalf of my colleagues at Timely MD, thank you. Just to do a little plug for us, we are here to kind of be that supplemental resource, to work with you as your partner. Community colleges have a lot of specific needs, and we have created our platform to fit those needs. And I'd love the chance to share more about everything we're doing to be innovative on our front to serve students wherever they might be and meet them where they're at. So I'm putting in the chat a little link to a Zoom session. We're going to have some open office hours throughout the rest of the week. Love the chance for you all to hop in, chat, learn more about us and how we can potentially be your partner. But I hope everyone has a great day and enjoys the remainder of the conference. And thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. We appreciate you.
Bye-bye.